story is the Eagles. I'm surprised you're down on them or just not sold yet. But listen, third straight win, A.J. Brown healthy. And look, the trade deadline is approaching, Colin. Nick Sirianni was asked about potential moves to improve the roster.
That we have, and I think this team's really coming together. With that being said, I know, we're always looking for ways to improve our team, and I know Howie's one of the best at that. Of always looking at ways that he can improve the football team, and I admire that and value that of how he goes to work there.
Yeah, I think their roster's fine. I don't think they need help. I think they need help at head coach, but I don't think they need help on the roster. I just don't. I don't see their roster as having holes. There's nothing they do terribly.
I mean, they went into Cincy and won by 20 handily. Like, that's a really impressive win. You're still not like you're just out on Sirianni, which I get. He's kind of a buffoon.
Well, I don't need to. And I'm not going to name call. I don't think this is the guy that can go toe-to-toe with the best coaches in the league in January and February and win. He'll be exposed.
Yeah, he also had another sideline moment with one of his teammates who he started messing with the guy's helmet. And the guy's like, dude, come on, just stop. And there was like 10 seconds left in the game. And it's like, what's Sirianni doing? There's always something with this guy. I am bullish on the Eagles. I would not be shocked if they were in the Super Bowl. I know you're not a believer in that on that level, but this A.J. Brown, man, he changes. We've seen receivers get hurt this year, right? Yeah, Stafford looked pedestrian without Puka and Kupp. Baker Mayfield this weekend, spotty without Godwin and Evans. C.J. Stroud, no Nico Collins. He looks okay. A.J. Brown's back. Jalen Hurts looked awesome this weekend, man. Yeah. I think this is a good Eagles team.
All right.
Okay. So J-Mac just said he would not be surprised if the Eagles win the Super Bowl. That is a bold claim and statement to make, which I know Philadelphia Eagles fans are going to be pretty excited to hear that one. Colin Cowherd does not think so. But this is what's interesting. And it's mainly because he's, anti-Nick Sirianni. Which, I understand that argument. But let's go over something real fast. For the first time in 71 years, this was posted by John Clark, a Philly reporter, so I'm sure a lot of Eagles fans will know him. But for the first time in 71 years, the Eagles have had 2 straight road wins by 20 or more points in back-to-back weeks. The Eagles have the second best road winning percentage, 700, 21-9 in the NFL, behind only the Chiefs, who are at 750, 21-7 under Nick Sirianni as a head coach. Eagles are 13-1, 929 in last 14 games versus the AFC. The Eagles have the highest interconference winning percentage, 76, 0.765, 13-4 in the NFC under Nick Sirianni. So, what does that all tell us? That the Eagles have been pretty good, right? The Eagles have clearly been incredibly competitive these last 3 years or so. So this is what's really interesting to me, because Colin's now also saying, well, I don't know if this team needs anyone else. And it's like, you always want to improve and make better. And it's also a tough question to ask, Nick, like this question, right? Like, oh, do you want to make trades? And he's like, yeah, we got to get better, this, that, and that. Like, come on. Everyone likes to make fun of him, but he knows how to answer those questions, and those questions are never easy for a coach. It's like, leave it up to the GM. He gets to be the bad guy. You got to keep things clean for the coach. But look what the Chiefs just did. The Chiefs have a great defense. They have arguably the best defense in the NFL, and yet they just made a trade to boost their defense. So this idea that just because you're playing pretty good on both sides of the ball or one side of the ball, whatever it is, that you shouldn't improve there or try to make extra moves, that makes fundamentally no sense, especially if you think you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. So that's what's really interesting to me. I would love to hear what Philadelphia Eagles fans have to say about this, whether or not you think that one Super Bowl, is up for grabs. They can legitimately win a Super Bowl this year. And 2, if they should make a trade or two at the deadline. What do they need to do to make their team even more competitive and even better and solidify that chance at actually winning another Super Bowl? Because Mangini talked about this yesterday on First Things First, and I took issue with it. He didn't mean it in a negative way, honestly. He meant it in a positive. But he said last year the expectations were so high because they just went to the Super Bowl, right? Expectations were so high, and because the season caught up with them essentially, and they started losing, and then of course they lost in the playoffs. Like, it really crushed them, and every little thing they did was put under a microscope, etc., and it was bad. And he goes, now this season the expectations are a lot lower, they're more middle, and now they're achieving that, and so now the expectations are aligning with what's happening in reality. And I 1000% disagree with that. In no world are there low expectations or middle average expectations for the Philadelphia Eagles. The expectations are to get to a Super Bowl. When I just read you those stats and all the things that they've been doing, that is what the expectations are, right? The Philadelphia Eagles franchise and a lot of the fans see this as a top roster. Going into this season, this roster was ranked second only to the 49ers, and that was before all of their injuries, of course. So the expectations are through the roof. They went to a Super Bowl a couple years ago, lost obviously, started off really hot last season, and then collapsed. So this idea that, the Eagles are just going to be happy to win the division and get to the playoffs and maybe compete for an NFC championship game, that's not what the expectations are. That's not who the Philadelphia Eagles are. Okay? So I wholeheartedly reject that. 1000%. The Philadelphia Eagles, year after year, their expectations are to be competing for an NFC championship game and get there, win playoff games. They're not just excited or happy or content to just be there, to just be in the playoffs, to be in the conversation, to be discussed nationally. That's not what they're about. So, and the fact that they've had the success that they've just had recently only raises the expectation. So I'm fascinated with what moves the Eagles may make moving forward. I'm really, really, really interested in this. See how aggressive they are. How close do they think they are? I mean, they're one drop pass away from only having one loss. So I understand that a lot of people lack the confidence in this team, the resilience in this team, and it's warranted to a degree because of what happened last year. It's understandable. And the way how even this season unfolded. Now, again, I've explained it, I've defended it, and I'm not going to do it here. But at least conceptually, I can understand. And I'm sure a lot of even Eagles fans can feel that way. They can feel like, man, this is great. I'm excited, but I don't know, right? I got to keep seeing this unfold. And that's where I feel right now. I'm like, okay, I think this team really has the potential to be great and prove and actually play like a true top team in the NFL, but it's still you got to continue to show me before I can say with straight confidence, no one's beating them in the NFC. They're going to the Super Bowl. They get to the Super Bowl, you better bring your best game. Let's go. Right? I'm not going to be that strong about it. Quite frankly, I'm not really that strong about any teams right now, the way how all of these games have unfolded throughout this season. So, but I don't think it can be argued that the Eagles are playing great right now. And it can't be argued against that Jalen Hurts has been playing great right now. And that this team feels really, really connected. And as much as I don't always agree with J-Mac, I will say this about J-Mac. Some of his more textured opinions on certain things, right? Some of his more pure opinions of hey, let's talk about Sirianni. Let's talk about, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. I'm not a huge fan of that personally, and that's not a knock on him. It's just I just will disagree with him a lot on just those various more again, pure opinions, but it's just kind of what are your thoughts on this? But when it comes to some of his predictions and his analysis, and so much of that is rooted in his own gambling background, which he obviously talks a lot about, he does have an eye for this type of stuff. He is a very smart person. He's gotten where he's gotten, not off of just charisma and skill. It's off of intelligence, right? It's off of his hyper intelligence. That is probably even why a lot of people may not even like J-Mac, because he has a hyper intelligence that then when he shares his point of views, it's not always palatable in the easiest way, which is what makes someone like Colin so charismatic and so good, right? He knows how to talk. He can talk forever and ever and ever. It's how he hosts a 3-hour show. But if you really read between the lines and really listen to a lot of things that J-Mac is saying, he does say a lot of things that are correct. And again, I'm not saying that they're going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not predicting a Super Bowl. I'm not making that prediction about any team, quite frankly. But in 22, he said, look out for the Eagles. Before the Eagles even played, he goes, look out for the Eagles, man. Look out for the Eagles. Look out for the Eagles. And they went to the Super Bowl and were a play away from winning. So, it'll be interesting to see if history repeats itself, but maybe just a little bit more positively for the Philadelphia Eagles. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles being a true Super Bowl contender? Do you think that they should make some trades at the deadline? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.